Thank you, sir. That's fine. That's all right. Being 5:30, I'll now call to order the regular meeting of the Lake Placid Town Council this 8th day of January 2024, being 5:30 p.m. If everybody would please make sure your phones are either off on vibrate, we would appreciate it. And at this time, if everyone would please rise, we have the pleasure of having with us tonight Pastor Dustin Woods from the Grace Bible Church, who is going to lead us in our invocation and pledge.
Let's pray together. Father, we're so thankful for the kindness that you've shown us, that you would allow us to live in a time like this, in a place like this. And Lord, we pray that you'd show us how to steward it well, because we know what a gift that it is. So I pray for wisdom for our council, wisdom for our community as we steward this special piece of ground that you've planted us in. And we thank you for your love and faithfulness to us. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you being here. Clerk, would you call the roll?
Mayor Holbrook,
Here.
Councilmember Royce,
Here.
Councilmember Wilson,
Here.
Councilmember Hayes. Here.
As you noticed, the name Councilman Greg Sapp was not on here. At this time, I'd like to place this letter into record. Dear Mayor Holbrook, it is with much regret that I resign as town councilman effective 12/31/2023. I make this decision in response to the disclosure requirements placed on local public officers as required by Form 6. Give that back to her. So we have the option of appointing, or if the ad goes out tomorrow for the pre-registering for the election in April. I don't know if we want to try to do that or not. Actually, I think the best way to do it is if we have some people that are interested, just have them come before council next month and introduce themselves, talking about him, and we just go ahead and appoint somebody to fill his position for the next 2 years, but that'll be up to council.
So our option is to appoint, or is there any other option? Is that
I don't
our
know if
option?
we can get it on the ballot in time
I see.
for the April. And I don't know, and we don't want to do a special election. That would
No, of course not.
would
No.
cost too much money for 2 years.
Of course, right.
So I think our best option is to see if there's some interested residents out there who might want to sit, and then we just appoint one from that. Is that correct, Mr. Attorney?
Yes.
Opinion?
Well, let's talk about timing. Obviously, we could, obviously, if someone was appointed, they would fulfill the remainder of the term for that seat, 2 additional years. So, putting them on the election is not an option, really. I'm just wondering about the timing of, I'm happy to obviously have notice, happy to, interview's the wrong word, but hear from people next month. But I just wonder if we should commit to necessarily picking from someone, or whether or not we ought to schedule that for March, for instance. So whatever is the appropriate thing to do.
I don't know if it matters, does it? We have the ability to do it tonight, but, we don't have anybody in front of us, so,
Do we have to interview?
no.
Charlie?
I'm just trying to think on the election side. the upcoming election is April?
Yes.
Okay.
The advertisement advertising the 2 open seats goes in tomorrow, so many days prior to qualifying. So I would have to, if we wanted to put it on this ballot, I'd have to call the elections office and see, because there's a strict timeline.
Oh,
in the
okay, I understand.
advertisement
Yeah,
to the
it's with,
qualifying period.
okay, so it has to do with the
That's exact time.
advertising and for the qualifying, okay.
If I'm understanding, I'm not talking about wanting to put, put that on the election ballot, because obviously we wouldn't want to have 3 out of 4 seats on the same timeline.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Eve, I didn't hear all of what you said. If I remember right, the qualification period is going to open on February 12th?
February 12th to that Friday at noon. So it's noon to noon, Monday to Friday,
And I'm sorry, just for that week?
just for that week. That's the
So we
qualifying
will,
period.
we will know by, I'm sorry, February the 14th or 15th,
If we're going to have an election,
Okay.
if there's going to be other people running.
and our next meeting in February is on what date? On the 12th?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
So we need a motion for March?
Well, you could do it in February. But we could advertise to have him come before council February 12th. And at that meeting, we could appoint.
If I may,
Yeah.
my thought would be to advertise, let folks know.
Right.
Not necessarily commit to a point in February, but give yourself
Oh,
the
the
option
option.
of either.
Okay.
I hear support for both,
Yeah.
or you can say we're going to do it. You may not get sufficient number February.
Yeah, because of this, this new form, I don't know how many people might even be interested.
It's pretty onerous.
Eva, did I fill that out yet? Do I even know what that is, that form?
No, you'll be filling it out in July is when it's due.
No, I mean, the form that he's.
Form
Oh,
6.
we have till July
Yeah.
to fill it out.
Okay, so
Yes.
I don't think I've even looked at the form yet.
I sent
You
out,
sent it,
I'll
didn't you?
resend there was a educational video that I sent out,
Yeah, I don't think I've looked at that yet.
sent that out, but it was,
Okay, I don't think I've looked at that yet.
There's a lot
Okay.
you have to disclose.
and it has to be filled out online. So
Okay.
it's not a paper copy, it's all done online. I think my understanding of it, you have your expense, what you owe and all of that, and
Right.
what you own, property, income. We checked it out, you'll be able to attach your
Any debts
tax
over
return.
$10,000, yeah, it goes on and on.
Okay, all right.
And Mr. Mayor, the reason I'm hesitant is, my understanding is if we appoint someone, he or she would not have to fill out that form until the deadline of July the 1st. Is that accurate?
They were not, my understanding, I'll
But
defer to
if they were
Bert, but
going to run, they need to file the form in order to
So
qualify.
whoever is put on now without going through the election, they weren't here in 2023, so it's a look back. So what you're reporting on is your previous year. So they won't report till the following for 2024.
Okay, so explain to us, I mean, just so the public knows, the seats that are up in this cycle are the ones currently occupied by Mr. Wilson and I believe.
You will be filling out Form 6.
We have to fill out the form in order to qualify to run,
Yes.
but someone that came on board would not have, would people that are running that were not currently serving on council, they don't have to fill out the form?
Anyone for elections, whoever wants to qualify must fill out the Form 6 regardless if they were on council.
That's what he's asking, this current one, anyone who is a candidate would be required
Yes.
to fill out the Form 6
Candidate
as
is
well.
required,
But anybody we
but if you appoint
wouldn't be
somebody,
because they didn't serve last year.
For an appointment.
until,
For so an appointment,
because
if your
it'd be-
appointment is in February and you're appointing that person for 2 years, they will report the following July for 2024. So right now, anybody that's on council that was here during 2023, regardless if you were running or not, you would still have to fill out July for 2023.
But if Susan Smith, the hypothetical Susan Smith, qualifies during that second week of February, for part of her qualification would be that she would have to have filed a Form 6 in order to qualify. But if Susan Smith came before us and said, appoint me to council, we could appoint her and then she would not have to file the form for a year and a half.
She'll be
I mean, I
filing
guess
it for
there's where I'm a little troubled by the process. And I guess, part of me is interested to see who may say, well, I want to run and seek the seat or whatever, so.
And
I mean, we can advertise it and we can see we'll just see whether or not anyone's in February puts their hand up and says, consider me. But part of me says if I wish that it was all happening the week after qualification, because I would hate to appoint someone if they don't have to meet the same standard of invasive scrutiny that someone that's running for election does.
I mean, the way I've read it, and Bert, that it's for candidates. It doesn't say anything about appointing people that they have to fill it that year, right?
I agree with that, but you, council, could also require disclosure as a condition of appointment. If you want to. I'm not recommending it.
Or we could wait till March to appoint.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier, yes.
Right.
But-
If we waited till March to appoint, then we would already know the candidates that have filed to run. And they would have filed their Form 6, if I got that right?
Correct.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I would encourage the clerk to give them, anyone applying for the position, a copy of that information sheet that explains that disclosure, because it is,
It is, yes.
no, I mean,
I will give them what I'm going to be giving the candidates, which is actually where the website, how they're going to have to do it, all the information's there. Even the candidate packets, I've given them link for the educational video, so the candidates can go see that, because it's all online. I don't have a printed, because you'll be having to do that online. Even people that did Form 1 are now required to do it online.
Now I'm off of the but, so what you're telling, if I might, Mr. Mayor, so Eva, what you're saying is that there's not a physical Form 6 that those of us that are going to need to fill it out can work on over some period of time. We're going to have to go and try to access all of our information and fill it out online?
I have a sample of what it looks like online that will break it out in the instructions.
Okay.
And so that will assist.
and I think the League of Cities has sent out a blurb
Yes.
that will walk you through it step by step.
I just know every time I try to fill out something complicated online that takes more than a few minutes, it's very hard to get started and realize, well, I don't have all the information I need, and now I got to save that and come back a day later when I've tried to retrieve that information. And
Now, talking to somebody that's done it, I understand your income part of it's pretty easy. You just attach your tax form, tax return.
Like
And that's-
last year's tax
Yeah, that's
return.
all that's required for that. The other part of it, though, on, what you owe, what you own and what you owe and that kind of stuff, is all you'd have to get all that information together.
may I make
Yeah,
one more
of course,
comment, Mr. Mayor?
sure.
After you guys look at this form and study it, you may consider the town paying an accountant to assist each of you at least up to a certain amount, 500, $1,000, because it is not the form you're used to. It is a lot more involved.
What's going to happen is, presuming that Mr. Wilson and I decide to re-qualify or the time for us to do that form is not July 1st. I mean, it's coming up in 30 days. And, or certainly you're telling us by February the 14th or 15th or something.
I do have candidate packets ready, so
Okay.
they're up there, ready to be picked up. So
Have you looked at the form?
No, I mean, I've read through kind of some of it, but I haven't actually looked at the form. Luckily, I think my life is relatively simple. I mean, I think that where it gets complicated is if you're involved in multiple businesses and partnerships and those kinds of things where it can get to be a little onerous or in particular intrusive, as to what you're.
And I don't know if you've been watching the news, but just about every day, they're talking about different officials from here and from there that have resigned. And from what I understand, it's quite a number. So, anyway.
Well, I guess I would suggest that if we're going to be asked to have that type of documentation out there, that it would be appropriate that anyone, and we're going to ask anyone who's going to step up and ask the public to consider them in an election is going to have to put that information out there, that we ought to ask someone that's going to ask us to appoint them to the seat to be willing to share that same information. And I hate to use the word, and not get a 1.5-year pass on that,
Interesting question is, do you require every applicant or only the one that you want to appoint? Because you could have people make those disclosures and not be appointed. Now, if you feel that's information you want when you make the appointment.
Well, I mean, if they were going to run in the election, they have no guarantee they'll be the successful.
True that. You're right.
Nor do, Charlie and I are going to apparently if we're going to run, we're going to put all of our information out there, and we may or may not be elected, so.
And then have them come before council February meeting, but we may not make a determination until the March meeting. I don't know how you want to word that.
You can say you want those applications and the disclosures. If that is your tendency, I would make that decision tonight.
Yeah.
So people know what
Well,
to
that's,
submit.
I think that's maybe what he
that's
was
his point.
pushing for, but yeah.
You could have those candidates or ask people to apply a couple days before the agenda time. So you'll have them for February if you want to consider them, or give them through the agenda, through the entire 30 days and then do it in March.
Okay.
Just a hypothetical, if we get a pool of candidates, can we still choose to appoint someone that is not in that pool? Or
Yes.
by asking a pool of candidates, are we limiting ourselves to choosing someone from that pool?
Well, we'd have to know that they're interested.
Well, I know, but what if, if we get a pool of candidates and we as a board feel like no one there is who we really want, and we do know somebody that we really want, can we still appoint that person without them having come in that pool?
We can do, from what I understand, we can do just about anything we want to. That this group right here can appoint anyone. Is
But
that
would it
true?
look bad if we did that?
Is that, I don't know if that's an accurate statement, but it's,
The town charter is very brief and very direct. Says the mayor and council, and this is the one time the mayor gets to vote without a tie. The mayor and council shall vote to, elect any replacement. Conditions you're talking about are, yes, it's just like if you advertise for a bid, you reserve the right to reject all.
And then,
You can reject all applications
and then go through the
start
process
over.
again, yeah.
You're not bound to any process unless you establish a process. So I think your request to the community is people interested should apply and should fill out the Form 6.
And there's very basic qualifications. You have to have lived within the municipality for some period of time. I don't know whether it's 6 months or a year or something, but you have to live in the town of Lake Placid for the last 6 months or a year or whatever.
Mr. Mayor, can I
Just
just say something? We're going to have whoever's appointed fill out the Form 6 through the state of Florida. And make sure there's nothing on their end that's going to kick it back because they're not actually a candidate or, I'm not sure how that works, that software that they're going to go in and do. Because I think on the actual, actually, Kevin, can you bring up the internet and just bring up Florida Department of Ethics? And you'll see there's a click for candidates, and there's click for already established elected officials. That's Florida Department of Ethics. It should be the first page. And scroll down, just scroll down, it should, yeah, it's not the page, go back one.
And I guess my point is, I just want to make sure that everyone who's seeking
Yes.
a seat on the council understands that the rules have changed from what they traditionally were, and there is a much more intensive level of disclosure required to be a town council member than the pretty vague form that we used to fill out.
Form 1.
Yeah.
Form 1. Yeah, it's not on that page. It's on the main page, I think. But that's the only thing I was pointing out. I'm not sure how that works if, as an appointee, how they would go into that system to
Well, I think that's all the more reason that we advertise it, we see what's going on, we let staff figure out how things would work, and we move forward. I think it would be interesting for council to know, do Mr. Wilson and I choose to seek reelection or not? I mean, you may have more than one spot, who knows? So it just, things could happen between now and February 15th or 16th or whenever it is.
yeah, there's your sample right there.
So now I'm just going to ask me, I can get with you in the coming days and get a printed copy of that.
Yes. You
That
have-
I
it's
can
our-
then fill out to guide me when I go online to do it. And if I decide to seek reelection, then I can go online starting tomorrow and fill out that form, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there's only a couple of forms that you have to wait for the qualifying period, and Form 6 is not it. That you can turn in anytime.
Because interestingly, that week, I'm going to be out of town most of that qualifying week. So if I'm going to do something, I need to be getting on it and then getting you stuff on Monday, the 12th, so I don't pull a Waldron.
No, don't. You wouldn't.
Okay. So what direction we want to give Eva?
Do we advertise? We have,
You're not required to. You can rely upon the newspaper if they print news articles. It's a wide open process. And you certainly may advertise.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that, let me ask you a question. Do we have to take any action, or can the mayor unilaterally accept Mr. Sapp's resignation?
No, we are supposed to accept, we, the council.
Okay,
So there should be a motion to accept the resignation.
okay. First of all, I'll make a motion to accept Mr. Sapp's resignation. He wanted it effective December,
31st.
He wanted it the 30th. He mailed it, he says, the 30th.
Yeah, it
But
said,
he says effective the 31st.
okay. I'll make a motion, we accept Mr. Sapp's resignation effective December 31st.
Second.
we got a motion and a second. Any other discussion from the podium? Hearing none, we'll take it to the audience. And there, bring it back. Pull the council, please.
Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a second motion that we obviously notify the public that, through the press or whatever, I mean, Eva can make sure that John, Guerra, and others know that there's now a vacancy on town council. We can post it on our website, those types of things. My motion is not going to call for us spending money to have an advertising, but that we notice the public, and that we will, ask anyone who's interested to let us know of their potential interest. When is our meeting in March? What is the date of our meeting in March?
12th? 11th?
That we ask them to let us know of their interests prior to March the 1st. And that a condition of consideration is that they have, I don't know, how do we word it, Mr. Harris? I mean, do we want them to actually file a form, or just have, understand that they have to be willing to file a form immediately if appointed? I mean, we could do it either way.
Well, Eva makes a good point that their system may, don't know, be set up in the Ethics Commission to accept current candidates, which that person would not be, or existing office holders, which they would not be. I don't know if another category would even be allowed to
Access.
file with the ethics. But certainly, the clerk can print out the form and say, you've got to file this with the town.
I guess all of this is more and more reason for me to say that we need to know the answers to these things before Bob Smith or Susan Jones walks in here and says, appoint me, and we don't know how that works. But I think we can share with people that are, and so Mr. Mayor, I'm going to withdraw the motion I'm making, but I think we just ought to notify people there's opening. If people have an interest, they should contact the clerk and to understand more about the requirements of the position. And we should then develop at our meeting on February 12th, a course of action that we're going to take to appoint the next member.
That's your motion?
Yes.
Second.
Okay. Any other comments? Any
I'm
comments
not
from the
sure
audience?
I understood the motion once you finally got finished with it.
Yeah, I know, I apologize. And
Read back what you
and
think
now,
it said.
and now I apologize for the,
Really go back and listen.
no, let me say this. I mean, the intent of the motion was that we notice that there's an open position, and that the council will be appointing a replacement to fulfill the unexpired term that Mr. Sapp was in. And I'm suggesting that there needs to be some additional research. The intent of my motion is additional research by staff needs to be done on how in particular it deals with Form 6, and they will come back to us on February 12th and say, this is what we can or can't ask a candidate to do, or what would or would not be appropriate. And they come to us, Eva, Kevin, and say, here's our recommended course of action. And we then could appoint someone as soon as March. Or we might say, You know, if there's multiple people that run, you know, maybe, I guess, you know, I mean, as I'm just thinking out loud, if there was 3 or 4 candidates in race for 2 seats, you know, to me, the likely thing, the appropriate thing might be to appoint one of the unsuccessful candidates to the town council, because they've put themselves out there for public consideration.
Right.
You know, versus someone that isn't going to put themselves out for public consideration, you know? And maybe who knows, maybe there'll be no candidates and then it'll get really interesting when we have a one-person council, you know, so,
Yeah, it's,
And what-
could go a lot of different ways.
I'm not liking this one-person council idea at all, 'cause everybody's looking at me.
Well, I would like to bring up and put in a motion that some kind of financial consideration for sitting members for accounting help, because, I mean, I paid for my accountant to do my F1 with me just to make sure everything was right, and that's relatively simple. This is a whole nother animal. So it's going to be costly as well, and it's not like, you know, any of us are in this for the money, but if it's going to cost as much as you make in a year, it's probably not worth it either, you know? Up to a certain limit or something. Because mine is not going to be as simple as some.
no, yours will be more complicated than mine, so.
Yeah, and definitely mine, yeah, so.
Yeah.
You know, I shut my mouth off saying, let's do that. Then the question is, do we do it for all candidates?
I took this job and it wasn't a requirement, and I've been here
Yeah,
dutifully.
Absolutely true.
A candidate knows that's part of the decision-making process, whether or not you're going to run.
Right.
I've been here doing the proper paperwork for years, and now
It's
the
changed.
legislature has changed it, not us. So either way, I'm fine.
Eva, you're looking like you need something
Like
more
during the
exact from I mean, it sounds like we need to someone needs to make a motion how to proceed with that, and then we need to address separately the motion that I perceive Mr.
The one
Wilson
that
is
you
going to make.
first and Charlie seconded, was that a notice, to notice the open position? The council will be appointing the replacement of the unexpired term to advertise that.
Right, and the applicants are being told what will be required of them with the new Form 6 and everything that's involved.
So is that the motion?
Contact the clerk.
Oh, to contact the clerk, okay.
Okay, I believe we had a motion and a second on that.
Yes, contact the
So
clerk.
we can
in
go ahead and vote.
regards to
Let's go ahead and poll
process.
the council on that.
Okay. We ready? Okay. Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes?
Yes.
Now
I
we can
think.
go into what,
And I'll second Mr. Wilson's, I'm sorry, Charlie, did you want to put a dollar amount on it, or what did you want to do?
I mean, I have no idea how many hours it'd take, but probably 500 should do it, I would think. I don't know, we'll find out. But if it's more than that, I'll pay the rest or whatever, but I don't want to be out there too much.
I'll second Mr. Wilson's motion that we authorize up to $500 of assistance for accounting assistance per council member and mayor in the preparation of their Form 6. I think that was your motion.
Yes, sir.
yeah, all of us will be required. And if you don't do it by July, then there's a hefty fine.
And that was your motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second, up to $500. Okay? Any other comments?
No.
Audience? Poll the council.
Councilmember Wilson,
Yes.
Councilmember Royce,
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, guys. All right, now we can go to consent agenda 1, A through H.
I'll make a motion, we pass consent agenda 1, A through H.
Second.
We got a motion, a second. Any further comments? Okay, hearing none, the audience? Seeing none, poll the council.
Councilmember Wilson,
Yes.
Councilmember Royce,
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to make sure one thing. I know we already passed it. I'm assuming consent agenda item E, we're waiving the event fees for the annual country fair, not the county fair, right?
It's a country fair.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure there was, thank you.
That's the one,
think that
I think that's the
ours
one we do every year.
Right, I
Yeah, it
just,
just says county and not
it says county,
country.
not country. I assumed it was country, but I just want to make sure. Okay.
Okay, consent agenda 2.
I'll make a motion that we pass consent agenda 2, item A.
A second.
We have a motion, a second. Any comments from the podium? Take it to the audience. Poll the council.
Councilmember Wilson,
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes,
Yes.
Councilmember Royce.
Abstain, that business belongs to a relative. I've filed the proper paperwork with the clerk.
Okay. Next, we go to our ordinances, public hearings. The first is ordinance 2024-01, an ordinance of the town of Lake Placid, Florida, modifying the 5-year capital improvement schedule of the town of Lake Placid 2030 comprehensive plan, providing for severability, providing for conflict, and providing for an effective date.
Good evening, council. Dana Riddell, town planner for the record. Tonight, as the mayor mentioned, we're here to discuss ordinance 2024-01, which is our annual updates to the capital improvement schedule. This satisfies a Florida statute requirement that we update our 5-year plan once a year. This identifies funding, timing, and priority for the projects that are included within the plan and ensures that we have an adopted level of service, which is achieved and maintained. It's located in the town's capital improvement element of the comprehensive plan, and this is not considered a comprehensive plan amendment by Florida statute. It is a requirement, but not a comprehensive plan amendment. Adopted by reference is the Highlands County School District 5-year work plan. I will advise that it's not attached as part of your packets this year because there was a delay in the budgeting process for the school board's budgeting system. The state had to open up some kind of program for them to be able to work through their budgeting.
Ava, could you please come assist Ms. Hayes? I'm sorry.
My laptop
went-
hates me, pardon me, sorry. It must have heard me speak before, but
Gotta be nicer to that thing.
get me to there, will you, please? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All better now, sorry.
There we go.
I'm not the only one asking a question, just for the record.
He gets some IT overtime right now, I think.
So far, I haven't broke it yet.
Okay, so just circling back, I was just opening the discussion to talk about the fact that the school board wasn't able to actually adopt a plan at their 5-year plan or make their modifications to it at this time, but we are adopting it by reference, so when it becomes available, it can be added into or it's just there for our reference. So I will go ahead and turn it back over to the mayor, and our motion options are available on the screen.
So we're looking for a motion? We're looking for a motion, and I will, on ordinance number 2024-01 on first reading.
I will second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any comments? Hearing none, we'll take it to the audience. There are none, so bring it back, poll the council.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes?
Yes.
Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
All right, next is 2024-02, a resolution of the town council for the town of Lake Placid, Florida, designating an alternate to the election canvassing board for the general municipal election to be held April 2nd, 2024, in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 7 of the Code of Ordinance.
Thank you. So the capital financial strategy is an extension of the capital.
Well, that was different from this, but go ahead with this. I think I missed one.
Yeah, something was skipped here.
It was this one. Okay.
See what
Yeah, a
happens when you
resolution of
open
Town of Lake Placid accepting the 10-year capital financial strategy of the
yeah,
Town
I'm
of Lake
sorry.
Placid, providing for severability, providing for conflict, and providing for an effective date. I jumped one.
Thank you. There we go. Everyone else was paying close attention, so thank you for that. So the capital financial strategy is an extension of the capital improvement schedule. Instead of 5 years, we include both the capital improvement schedule, which is our 5 years, and then we go an additional 5 years out from that for our 10-year capital financial strategy. Years 1 through 5 that we just voted on and will vote on adoption next hearing are meant to be financially feasible. Years 5 through 10 can be a little bit more up in the air. At this time, we didn't include much out in the 5 year, or I'm sorry, in the second half of the 5 years, so years 5 through 10. But we are, as a town, working together to come up with projections that are farther out into the future so that we can really work hard to make sure that we're planning. And next year, our intent is to try to do the capital improvement schedule and capital financial strategy at the same time as budgeting. And I think that'll be a better fit. And that came from our town administrator, good idea from him. So you have the actual capital financial strategy in your packets, but I will turn it back over to council for motions.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-01.
Second.
Approve or approve and adopt?
And approve on first reading.
It's a resolution, so approve and adopt.
It's just one.
Oh, it's
So
approve and
approve
adopt.
and,
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it'd be approve and adopt.
okay.
You both agree?
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, I have a question. We just did 2024-01 for 5 year. 2024-01 is also for 10 year?
One was an ordinance, this is a
It
resolution,
was an
they're two
ordinance,
different
this is a
things.
resolution.
Okay, I got it in
That's what-
stereo. Okay, thank you.
Well, we wanted to make sure we covered both of
There's a
those.
reason God made me short. It just went over the head, but it's okay.
Okay? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the podium? Hearing none. The audience? All right, seeing none, bring it back. Poll the council.
Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, before we move on, can I ask Mr. Harris a question? I recall years ago when we have to adopt the school board deal by reference. And it seemed at one stage, I think I remember Mr. Harris saying, why? Or should we do that? I mean, is that accurate? Did you question that at one time? And do we have to do it basically, or?
I don't recall the why.
Okay.
I would question, what difference does it make? They're going to have their budget.
It doesn't impact us financially, and we have no control over their plan, so we just
Does
are
their
reference
plan-
to it.
Does their plan require us to spend money?
No.
Then I guess it could be a zoning or
Possibly.
I think it's really according, oh, go ahead.
I said possibly. They're required to submit their plan and include it to the counties and the cities as part of state law. And if they're planning a new school, then it potentially, and depending where the roads are, there may impact what you do. It doesn't necessarily require you to spend money, but it does impact what you do, which may result in you spending money. So they have to share that information with the towns, and that's why that requirement drops in on adopting it, just, I guess, to make sure you see it. I don't know.
then I would say don't adopt it automatically. Wait till we see it and then consider it.
So,
I mean, listen, I'm not trying to be a fly in the ointment, but that's what I kind of remember is that it's just interesting that we're adopting someone else's work without any input or any say. So anyways, it is what it is. We passed it in first reading, but
I hear you. Thank you.
All right, now we can go to the last one I read.
Alrighty then.
And clerk, you want to go over that?
Okay, so this is on the election. It's a resolution appointing an alternate, being our town administrator for the canvassing board.
and basically that means if both Nell and the mayor can't make it, then Kevin can go
Right.
to be on the canvassing board since you have to have two.
It does add the town clerk in there, so it's the 3 plus town, it says and town clerk. So we'll probably end up having it without having to use Kevin, but
Okay.
yeah, that's kind of how that.
I'll move approval of resolution 2024-02.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any other comments?
And I will comment that going through that process is very educational, and it's too bad that the general public doesn't all get an opportunity to see the inner workings of the supervisor of elections office. And then all of this silliness about election fraud would be put to rest, because they have quite the process they go through just to work through our town elections.
Yeah, it is very impressive.
We all kind of, I
That's just
enjoyed
my
it when we
political
did
It,
it.
yeah, it was very good. I enjoyed it.
Very informative.
Okay. Did poll the council? Did we?
Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes?
Yes.
All right, I don't have anything else on the agenda. Town administrator?
Just real quick, Lake Placid Police Department update will basically be the same
there
as
we
last year. Or last month, not last year. They're working on the design, so they've got the site plan done. They're continuing to work on the design. That will probably be over the next 2 or 3 months. That may be the same update, just so you know, but we will do it. Actually, and we are having a discussion because we do need to start the PD process, because it does require a PD process to put the police department where it's at. We need to follow our own rules. So we'll be working on that moving forward. So, but the site plan's done. We continue to work on the landscaping and what's going to follow with all of that, as we do the police department and update and try and work into our landscaping plan. So,
Thank you.
I have a quick question, Mr. Mayor. Kevin, if you don't mind, we have made a specific or independent legislative budget request for funding to assist with the construction of that, correct?
That's correct, $800,000.
So session starts relatively soon, and did we do that? Does that have to go through a bill with a specific representative or senator, or not?
We did it through our representative and our senator.
Okay.
So both of those went through. They, so far, are included in the budgeting process.
Okay,
So we had to do affidavits and some other paperwork that goes along that. And so we did that with the $5 million wastewater ask and the $800,000 police department ask. And that will run through the budget process. So you'll know in June whether it stays. If it gets kicked out at any point before that, we'll know that it's kicked out. If it stays in, it's up to the governor and whether we get line item vetoes. So you won't know until
July 1.
July 1 whether it stayed in or not, because
But we should know here in 90 days whether or not it passed through the legislature and stays in their budget.
yes, and I'll let you know if it gets dropped out for any reason, so as we go in there through the process.
And then, if I might, Mr. Mayor, we have a separate grant application in regards to the wastewater system that's not a legislative budget request. Is it still our expectation to hear back from DEP sometime near the end of February?
Probably May, I think.
Oh, May.
I'm not sure. I don't think it's February, though. I think that's a little soon for it.
Okay.
So we'll know as they run through that process, but we're not sure of the date. But as they go through their budgeting process and selection process, then we'll know that one.
But that's there's,
Completely
in regards to wastewater,
completely
there's two
separate.
separate requests.
Right, completely separate tracks.
Okay.
Yeah, completely separate items.
Different
So,
departments, yeah.
Obviously, some of that request may be relying on how DEP's budget is faring through the legislative process then. Okay.
I think their funding is already set for this. If I believe our conversation with DEP, they know they have $200 million in this year. It's next year, so they don't know what they have yet. So this year's already set. It's not, they're not relying on the state's budget. They're going through their selection process and identifying what's getting funded.
Okay.
So that's where that $15 million grant is. The $5 million is entirely going through this year's legislative process and budget. So we'll know before the state budget is approved whether we, or should know on the grant separate process.
And Mr. Mayor, since I think we're about done, can I ask Mr. McCarthy, can you give us, Kevin, the 1-minute version of where we are in regards to wastewater plants and plans and all that, if you don't mind?
Due to go out to bid on the 24th of this month for the wastewater treatment plant. They'll be due back in March, early March. So I expect that gives us 2 to 3 weeks to review the bids. We should be making a recommendation at the April meeting for a contractor to start construction on the wastewater treatment plant. We are trying to get out to bid on the 2 lift stations, Marquardt and Main Street, in the next 2 months. And then that will, and hopefully depending on the water main for the camp and conference center. So probably in March, we'll be going out for those 2 projects. And then by April, I'm hoping by April, early May, we'll be out for the other projects, Lake Placid and Lake June Point, the force main from the south plant to Mirror, and the force main for Tomoka over. So those are all looking to complete probably in April and get out to bid. April-May timeline, and we'll be out to bid on those. And while I'm doing it, pipe bursting project, I got an email finally back from the contractor. He's looking at late spring, early summer is his words, did not give me a month or a day to start the pipe bursting project. They've accepted all the paperwork. They're sending us a revised proposal. And so, but they said that's when they're looking that they may be able to start.
And my understanding is, I see Ms. Ventris here, you're going to actually hold a groundbreaking on the Camp and Conference Center wastewater line project here in 3 or 4 weeks?
We're shooting for the middle of February, so we haven't confirmed that date yet, but that's.
So we're going to get started even before those other lift stations are ready to go to bid. We're going to start on that project.
That's correct. The force main, the lift station at the Camp and Conference Center will start. As a matter of fact, pumps and panels are already ordered, 36-week delivery on the panels, 32 on the pumps. So those were ordered about a month ago, even though they didn't have notice to proceed and the other stuff. We got the contractor to go ahead and start ordering materials. We're having to go through a state process on a waiver. Valves are 24 weeks for American-made that meet the American-made standard. That's a 24-week delivery. We want a waiver because that will hold up the project. And we're just starting that process with the state DEP. So, but they're ordering materials and supplies, but the valves are a question that we've got to go through the process and see if we can get a waiver on the valves. But yeah, we will be holding a groundbreaking ceremony. They've got materials ordered and they'll be starting construction by March unless we run into some other snafu.
And my final question, I promise. We have, since at our last meeting, we set priorities for the wastewater project. You've now gotten back, I assume, with the appropriate engineering firms, and we've said, okay, since Lake June Point isn't going to be a priority, isn't going to happen in this phase, we're not moving forward with any engineering there. We're moving forward with the engineering with the top 2 or 3 priority areas. And just for my clarification, those are areas in Placid Lakes, canals, along kind of the northern, primarily northern and western shores of the lake, Lake Placid. And then what other areas? Is there some areas around Lake June as well, or?
So, yes, so Lake June is still in, so Lake June Point is not moving forward at all. Lake June Hills is not moving forward at all. The design is stopped on those completely. The design for Lake Pearl Serena that was out of the project is actually 100%. That design is 100% complete. It will sit there until our next project and determination of what's going to happen on that piece of it. But those designs are complete. The force main from Tomoka to our plant, which covers County Road 17, so that's already going to pick up that. That's not a separate design. The piece that runs down past Bishop Park is still in design because that project's still included. So the ones that are excluded, we're not moving forward on anything. We're not spending any more money on those projects. The ones that are included, we expect to be going out to bid on most of those at the same time.
And I obviously like someone to do a follow-up. The force main that connects Tomoka in our existing plant, our new plant, will there be individual home connections that'll work? In other words, if there's houses along that road, will they hook up to that force main, or is that just a transport line?
No, the grinder systems will pump into that force main. They're capable of that, meeting that pressure, so they will come up and tie into that force main. So everything that's along County Road 17 up to where we cut across and go into the plant, those will be available to tie into that system, similar to the force main that's going to be on Mirror Drive. Everything from US 27 as you go along Mirror Drive up to where we tie into the Camp and Conference Center, all those homes will be able to tie into that force main. So we pick up both sides of the street on Mirror Drive, and then we pick up the homes on Lake June, on County Road 17 North.
Okay. So basically along kind of what I'll call the eastern cove of Lake June, but just so there's no confusion for our constituents in Lake June Point, we are no longer planning on doing any activity in there at this time for this project, correct?
That's correct. And just for information, I'm going to their homeowners association meeting on February 17th.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yeah, I have a couple things. I spoke with Eva. For people that may be watching, everyone keeps asking me about the status of the pickleball courts. We are waiting for people from DEP to give us a definitive answer, which we have yet to hear. She's been diligently trying to reach someone. We haven't been told no, but we haven't been told yes yet. Initially, the grants were supposed to be in by end of August, and generally September, October, people are noticed, municipalities, applicants are notified. For some reason, they extended the period this year through October, I believe it was. No,
Middle of September.
September. So to this date, we still have not gotten word whether or not we've received that grant yet or will be receiving it. So that's where we are with that. One thing, I notice it every day, and it seems to have gotten worse in the last few months, is just on the west side of the circle on West Interlake, around Green Dragon Drive, where the tires on the road travel the most. That road is just, there's a stretch of about 100, 150 yards. It's just all coming up right there.
We talked about that this morning at our meeting,
Okay.
and he's already in.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad, but here in the last couple months,
It's getting worse.
yeah.
And it's like Alan said, that we think what's happening is water's getting underneath there as it runs down that hill.
And it's
it's lifting all that pavement, so. And what I told them is, reason I want to get with the county as soon as possible. Eventually, somebody's going to have an accident there.
Yeah, it's
So
starting to get,
Yes, that's top priority, yep.
and that's a high-traffic area
Yeah,
as well.
thanks, Charlie, yeah.
And I have one other thing. On the TDC, I spoke with Casey Wolf, I believe it was Friday. She emailed me. She also emailed Eva, so she's got a copy of this, but there's a drag racing for boats that is looking for a new home and is interested in coming to Lake Placid if we're interested. The timeline, it's sometime here in September 7th, on the weekend of September 7th. School is back in. The summer crush with people on the lakes and everything is kind of over at that time. And it's still early before the snowbirds come. It may be a good thing if the council's interested. I spoke to her about any cost to the town of Lake Placid. For a lot of times they have contributing grants that go to these organizations to attract them. She didn't think there was. The TDC would be able to fund some of this, but I'm going to ask Eva if she could email a copy of this to everyone. She was not able to make it to the meeting this evening. She had a prior commitment with the Sebring CRA this evening at the same time, so I told her that I would brief y'all on it, and that way you could kind of get this email. It may answer some of the questions you may have, and if we're interested, we can just let her know, and she can come to our next council meeting and give a presentation. And that's all I have.
Okay. You got anything?
No,
What?
I think I've asked all my questions so far. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ray?
No, sir, I'm good.
Take it to our department heads. Anybody have anything? You want to talk about the officer? Okay. Yeah, okay, be on next month, though. All right. Is there anything else to come before council from the audience? No? If there's nothing else to come before town council, meeting adjourned.
When I do these minutes, then you'll look at these ones, because